Wikipedia has revolutionised the way we find information. Its founder, Jimmy Wales, has entrepreneurship in his blood and is with us now to share some of his secrets. Jimmy, you make being a successful entrepreneur seem easy. What advice do you have for other budding web entrepreneurs?
I think my biggest tip is just get started. I meet a lot of young entrepreneurs who have good ideas or bad ideas or some ideas, and you don't want to be a person who just talks and talks and talks. You have to actually go and do something. And don't worry about if it's the perfect thing or not. There is this myth of entrepreneurship that you'll have the one genius idea and suddenly everything falls into place. It doesn't work like that. It's a hard slog. There's a lot of things to do wrong, a lot of things you'll do right. The sooner you get started, the sooner you'll get somewhere.
Many of today's tech entrepreneurs are young. Do you have to be under 35 to succeed?
No, definitely not. That's sort of a myth that's grown up. There are a few examples, of course. Mark Zuckerberg is probably the most prominent, but a lot of the people who've built successful companies started after 35, and there are a lot of reasons why people after 35 are better positioned to start a company and better positioned to make it succeed. Even I remember I had a conversation with Larry Page some years ago, and the Google guys weren't as young as Mark Zuckerberg, but they were quite young. And he talked about how when they first started, they just said, we're going to be a company of only engineers. We're not going to have any managers. And pretty soon they found themselves hiring people over 35 as managers because of their experience and so on. He said, turns out they're actually necessary. So I think a lot of young people, young entrepreneurs think, oh, whatever, I can do it all myself. But actually, there's a lot that you'll miss.
Have you made any big mistakes in your career?
Oh yeah. I give a speech sometimes called Failure. Jimmy Wales is really good at it, detailing all of the various dumb ideas that I've done in my life. One I remember in particular was I had the concept to have online food ordering for delivery for lunch from restaurants in Chicago where I worked at the time. Of course now this is a huge business and it really is, it was a good idea all along. I had the idea in 1996 and when I went to see restaurant owners about joining the system they had no idea what I was talking about, so it was too early. So there's always going to be things that don't work out for various reasons.
What things would you do differently now?
Well, I think the advice I gave at the start is very important. I should have started as an entrepreneur at a younger age. There were things I should have done faster, just in terms of instead of thinking about it endlessly, I should have just gotten started. That gets harder to do once you are successful because, there's a fear of failure and so on that's intensified. But I think getting started early is just really, really critical. I think particularly for new entrepreneurs, they may have a fear of failure and what will people think. And the truth is no one cares. Nobody's paying any attention to you. It's the best time to fail when you've got nothing going on.
What are some of the biggest challenges you faced getting Wikipedia up and running? It took a while to understand the concept of wiki. So we had a previous project that failed that was a very top-down effort to create an encyclopedia. And then, of course, as we grow, we had many growing pains. The website was very successful, the community was very successful. The Wikimedia Foundation, which is the nonprofit that I set up to own the project, was for quite some time fairly dysfunctional. And we were so busy just building and building and building that we didn't really have enough staff, we didn't have so on. That's changed dramatically nowadays, of course. So it's obviously a non-profit site. How do you fund it and what motivates people to contribute for free?
Yeah, well, in terms of the funding, it's the vast majority of the money comes from small donations, so people giving $50 to $100, €50 to €100, that's kind of the bulk of the money. We also have some foundation grants and some major donors, but they make up a relatively small percentage of the whole. I think a lot of people who contribute, they contribute out of a sense of, well, look, I use it every day. It's useful to me. I would pay for it. It's a good project. There's no advertising on it. I should chip in a little bit.
It seems like funding is one of the big problems for new web startups. How can they break through this issue?
Well, I think in many cases it can be a helpful thing to be forced to have the discipline to think about how to do things in a cheaper way, how to do things in a more efficient way. A lot of companies that have too easy access to funding when they're young end up failing because they're bloated and they become lazy and so forth, and everything seems so easy because there's lots of money to solve problems. Realistically, I think we should maybe step back and ask the question, what can we do more in different places around the world to encourage a culture of angel investment, of venture capital investment? Silicon Valley really has this figured out quite well. Other places around the world
some better than others, but it's really crucial to innovation, to growth, to prosperity in the future, that we really encourage this kind of innovative new companies to form.
So if you personally had $10 million in a pot to invest, where would you invest it?
Well, the thing is, I'm not an investor, I'm an entrepreneur, so if I had $10 million, I would start a new company.
And what would it be?
I'm not sure.
Thanks, Jimmy. For more interviews and news, check out the Credit Suisse website.